We go. Oops.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and again, I'm joined by my co-host, Ed Carbajal. Ed, what's going on, brother?
Nothing much, man. I mean, coming off of a pretty action-packed weekend with the BKFC 56 and UFC in Austin, slamming UFC in Austin. I know there's a lot of slam KOs on the card, and there's some great wins and some great fights, and BKFC, uh, as I thought, kind of like stole the show as we got into primetime hours because that Austin card was kind of over early enough that you could have watched the main event of BKFC 56 and UFC Austin. So there's a lot to take in from that. Um, I don't know where you want to start first. I mean, we talked a lot about the BKFC picks. I mean, I feel like I just want to start off. Might as well start off with that with Mike Perry and Eddie Alvarez. I picked Perry to win, but I kind of felt like I was going to be wrong as the first and second round went on. So I thought Eddie Alvarez head movement and his counterpunching was paying off in dividends for him, but the strikes that Perry obviously did land hurt Alvarez a lot. But he absorbed so much damage that I thought if he didn't land that right hand that kind of buckled Alvarez in the second round, I thought that was Alvarez's fight to win. But I mean, damn, if Mike Perry's head isn't you know made of iron.
Built for BKFC. Yeah, I mean, it kind of went in a sense, kind of how I think we both thought maybe because we both picked Perry to win. We are both rooting for Alvarez. I every single time a smaller guy's fighting a bigger guy, I always overlook the speed of the smaller guy. And in this case, I think Alvarez was lighting him up early because they were both fresh and he's so much quicker and he was throwing great punches early. I mean, just brutalized Perry. But in the sport, we mentioned about the one punch knockout power and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Perry has that punch that can just break your face.
Yeah.
And he's willing to break your face while his face is already broken. That's the difference between him and a lot of people is he stood there looking like a horror film, and then he ended up delivering the punches that put multiple fractures into Eddie Alvarez's or eye
Mm-hmm.
orbitals. So, I mean, this wasn't a joke. Leave it to me to go, hey, the last thing I ever see is somebody quitting on their stool in this fight. And then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, you know, but it turns out that it's when you got broken orbitals, Eddie Alvarez isn't a dumb fighter. He's a
Mm-hmm.
smart dude who knows he's a prize fighter. He's not going to go out there and risk his eyesight, risk the rest of his potential money making career to go out there and try to and have his eye seriously, permanently damaged. So,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was fun. It was a hell of a 2 rounds. I mean, nobody, you kind of disappointed how it ended, but as far as it being a corner doctor stoppage kind of thing, but um, yeah, I mean, I'd like to watch a rematch. I don't know if I feel like Eddie might just be too small for him in the long run. But with the rumor of maybe them trying to get somewhere into Philadelphia area out there in Pennsylvania, if you could have something out there in a suburb of Pennsylvania and have Eddie Alvarez fighting, um, outside of Philly, then
Yeah.
I'm all for giving him whatever he wants. I'm all for giving Eddie Alvarez whatever the heck he wants. If he wants to fight heavyweight, I don't care. The
Yeah.
dude earns it. But yeah, I mean, just a good fight, and I mean, brutal. Again, the whole event, a lot of brutality. I mean, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's not possible for this event to go through without that being the case. But if you're able to absorb that and get past that, I mean, Christina Fajea does her thing to Beck Rawlings again, just whitewash dominated 5 rounds
Mm-hmm.
to none. Um,
Yeah, she called out Chris Cyborg there, but Cyborg's already got a fight booked in for January. But she seemed open. She reacted to it on social media and was kind of like, talk to me, for afterwards because she still doesn't know what's going on with Bellator. So definitely, definitely something to look forward to there. I don't know how do you think Cyborg would do in BK? I feel like
she'd be
she'd be
great in it. I
yeah.
think Fajea's. I mean, I think Christina Fajea is just insane in that
Mhm.
she's willing to fight anybody, and she's kind of a cyborg herself
Mhm.
in the way she approaches the sport. But realistically, she's much smaller than Cyborg. I mean, this would be like a Leslie Smith, Cyborg kind of size mismatch. I mean, she's fighting at 125. Cyborg's 145 and not really budging off of that as her career has shown.
Mhm.
She hit 140 a couple times, but those days are I think are past. I think it's 145 or bust for her for most of the rest of her career. I think she'd do great in it. I think she's tough enough, and I think she, I mean, when I say tough enough, I mean I think she's willing to take the physical dismemberment.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? The disfiguration that comes with it. Eddie Alvarez said it best, about Mike Perry. That's why Mike Perry is so special at this, is because he's not afraid of looking like the Elephant Man, basically. You know what I mean? He'll go out there and he'll let his face get wrecked, and he's gonna stand in front of you, and you you're gonna have to give him your best shot to put him down. And when you put him down, you better hope he doesn't get back up because
Mhm.
you're gonna have a hard time doing it again. So I think
Yeah.
I think Cyborg would do great for it. I haven't seen any larger women. I don't think BKFC has a 135 or 145.
Yeah.
They don't. So, um,
I
but
could see them making one for her. UFC did it, so
I think it would be as one off. If I'm being honest,
yeah.
I want to see Cyborg finish her career in BKFC, other than like a kind of a MVP one kind of fight thing.
Mhm.
I'm good with that. I'd love to see that, but I don't want to see the people that are actual true legends necessarily winding down. When you're on the Mount Rushmore, we don't need you winding down your.
No, I'd like to. I mean, I know she wants to do boxing, but I'd like to see her, close out MMA. I mean, if she retires as a champion with the Bellator title, Bellator hope PFL should, there's fights for her in the PFL. She's got the Kayla Harrison fight would be a big one. They could put that on their weird pay-per-view that they want to do. But yeah, that'd be nice to see for her. But just really quick about Eddie Alvarez, that the whole thing about Philly, to Eddie Alvarez's credit, and like you said about it, like even though he knew he took that L and he still did it, went to the post-fight press conference and he still spoke to the media, and he still kind of like was asking for the rematch then and there. Um, so I just don't know if I honestly I think the injury happened like he's definitely the better fighter from what I saw. In my opinion, anyway, he was a better fighter. It's just that because of the time in versus he's taken a lot of damage over the years, and I think the orbital break and all and him being smart enough to quit in his corner, that's just all a culmination of how long he's been fighting. So I don't know why he keeps fighting, but you can't. No one can tell these guys when to stop. They have to make the decision to stop, and he's definitely that guy. He Underground King is a well earned name for him. Talking when you look back at the history of how he came up in the sport and where he's what he's done and where he's been. So he's definitely been in enough wars. I just think his body might not be able to handle any more wars, even though his heart seems to want them.
Yeah, I think he can be successful in BKFC. I think he should stick to the guys that are more his size, and
Mm-hmm.
and maybe pick up. It all depends on where these guys want to be at in their career. Do they want to just try to pick up some wins, pick up some money, or do they want to have super fight after super fight? If you're talking
Mm-hmm.
super fight after super fight, he's probably got 2 fights left in his career at this. You know what I mean? Like you're starting to talk then, starting to take severe. You're not kind of getting those squash matches, which you potentially could really kind of have if you're Eddie Alvarez, if they just match you up with the Miami DJ or something like that that BKFC can pull out if if that's what they want to do. But I mean, I'd like to see a rematch of this if that's what Eddie wants, and maybe that's his
Mm-hmm.
farewell fight, especially if it's in his neck of the woods out there in near the Phillies. So um, I don't know, but I just like what BKFC is doing. I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy their shows. I like to see that when they get positive press and people seem to be entertained by what they're putting out is a good sign. Especially like we said after last week's show, us talking about how things are kind of starting to disappear a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, and then what was the other fight that was kind of like the dude with the mohawk? That fight was a little nuts. I forget the name of the guy, but that was on a lot of social media the following day. That first round, especially because of the way it started off.
Yeah, there was that was a preliminary fight. Yeah, there you go, Esteban Rodriguez. Yeah, I mean you're gonna always have that kind of stuff in BKFC, but um, you got a couple of the picks right. You had Kai Stewart who looked really good against Howard Davis.
Hmm.
Um,
No, yeah, I
yep,
think I did all right. It was just that one the one I got wrong. What was the one I got wrong?
I don't think you got any of them wrong. on the 4 main card fights, you nailed it because you had Mick Terrell too,
Yeah,
and
that's
he
right.
and he
That's
was
right.
losing early to Adams. Adams looked good early, but then he's gassed out in the 3rd round, and then was eventually finished off in the 4th. But yeah, no, you did good on your picks there, so I'll give you credit on that. Jeremy Stevens looked good. Kind of had the same
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like, he kind of came out. He took some shots. Rivera had a nice little jab going early, but um, we mentioned the big punch, and I mean he
Mhm.
opened up Rivera's eyelid wide open. So same kind of thing. You got lightning in your hands. You can win a fight like this a lot quicker than some other guys who kind of have to grind away at it. If you Mike Perry or if you're Jeremy Stevens, you just put a 4-inch cut over the guy's eye and let the referee or the doctor
I'm
in the
curious. I mean,
night.
we don't see like sale like pay-per-view. Like I'm curious of the numbers they did because I mean, if anyone's a draw, for BKFC, obviously it seems like Mike Perry's that guy. I'm just curious about the numbers because he said something in the post-fight press conference where he was like people were asking what's next, and he said something along the lines of like it can't just be me. Like he wants to fight other notable fighters. He's like I don't want to be the one person. I don't want it to be a one-sided reason for the folks are watching. It's got to be me and like so another name, and I forget what the name was that he called out. I saw him say it and I forgot who it was, but he said, "Oh, Anthony Pettis," and he was like, it's like me and Anthony Pettis. Um, he mentioned about how he beat Roy Jones Jr. in their boxing match, and Perry trained with Roy Jones to get ready for this one, so it'd be kind of like avenging his teacher and type of thing, kind of like Fist of Fury storyline, for them to sell the fight if they do book it. But I mean, I think that'd be another big name, but we got to see where if BKFC can come up with the money to pay for the name, the type of fight that Perry's asking for, and especially to draw in Anthony Pettis after he made money, fighting Roy Jones.
Yeah, and we'll see next weekend what
Mm-hmm.
how Pettis continues when he's got that Cardi combat fight with
Mm-hmm.
Benson Henderson. Yeah, as far as the pay per view numbers go, I don't think we probably won't hear much about it. I know last time they complained about piracy,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 50, 60,000, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't a ton, but as long as it's enough to pay off the provider and pay the bills,
Yeah.
I I don't know. I don't know if pay per view is the pathway anymore for this kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I just don't. But I don't know the numbers. It just seems common sense would tell me, you know, any kind of even YouTube with ads would almost be, if you
Yeah.
could get eyes on it, seems like it would almost be getting
Yeah.
there.
Especially with live sports looking for a home, I feel like YouTube is a good option. I wrote a couple of things on that on the newsletter that I do, just how like because I thought Bellator could capitalize on their YouTube channel. I even proposed it to Saki Kabara and Scott Coker doing one of the this time last year when they did media for Ryzen versus Bellator, and obviously Coker knew where they were going before I did, and Saki Kabara was just nodding his head like he was interested because the translator translated for him. But it was like they could do sub only stuff on their YouTube channel. I feel like that's a good way for who does YouTube. What's that one that has all the UFC fighters? It's always a good card. I can't think of the promotion.
Well,
Um, like,
XMMA was
yeah,
always on there.
XMMA.
Invicta's on there a lot, or
Invicta's on there with them and Access TV, but
yeah, they have a combination.
George Bread, I mean Game Bread, Jorge Masvidal thing is a strictly
Uh
YouTube thing. It's not Fight Pass, it's YouTube. So there's got to be something. There's got to be something there for them to do stuff like that. But
Don't forget that Power Slap does like 50 billion views on Rumble, according to Dana White. So,
yeah,
I mean, there's got to
yeah,
be a bunch of ways to do it.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
they could go on Rumble and be number 2 in India behind Power Slap,
yeah.
right?
I don't know. It'd be a distant number two according to what we hear. So.
Yep, number 1 in India. With that said, let's talk about Dana White's promotion, the UFC. Uh, Last weekend had anytime they got an event in front of people,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's nice to talk about, nice to acknowledge. They want to acknowledge the fans. It's easier to acknowledge the event.
Mm-hmm.
But they went to Austin, had a nice little crowd out there. And they got a hell of a fight card. The fights we promoted the fight night. We don't do that a lot on this show,
Mhm.
and it pretty much paid off. You talked about a couple slam knockouts
Mhm.
that are obviously spectacular. Um, what can you say about Misha Tate? Holy shit! I thought she was going to get boat raced, and
Yeah.
she legitimately looked like she might be the next 135-pound champion.
Yeah.
I mean, if that Misha Tate fights Buena Silva or fights Pennington, the winner of the fight in January,
Mhm.
especially Pennington. I know Pennington has a win over it at 205. You know, a long time ago now, which led to Tate's first retirement. But
Mhm.
I mean, I that was as good as I've ever seen her fight. I mean, I know that she didn't get the finish, but her wrestling and her control, and I mean, that was Cupcake Tate, early
Yeah.
Strike Force days
Yeah,
kind of
she's
thing.
definitely like they're like anybody that tried to shit on her or whatever. I mean, like not for nothing, and she was always kind of like she got some trash when she lost all her fights to Rousey, but I mean, long term I always think about Chris Howder. There's a Chris Howder, one of these motivational jujitsu videos that are out there, and he's part of the old OG like first people started getting black belts from the Gracies and jiu-jitsu from back in the day. And there's a quote out there from him there where he says, it's not about who's good, it's about who's left. And you look at somebody like Misha Tate, the fact that she's still, what'd she say, 18 years in her post fight interview in the cage. She's been fighting for 18 years. She's still there throwing down like you said, like at contender level. I mean, when after that, I meant to put it on Twitter, but I was like, not for nothing, don't ever put that woman on the prelims again after that. Like, you put
No,
her on
you're
the
right.
main card. You put her on the main card. I mean, she's a former champion. Put her on the main card. I mean, win or lose, put her on the main card. I mean, you got all these guys like Clay Guida that you're giving, you know, Clay Guida, all these, who's the guy from Georgia? Jim Miller. You're giving these guys placements on cards, like pump them up to the main card. They put in their time, just because she stepped away for a little bit and came back. Sometimes people need that. Henry Cejudo did it. A lot of people do it. McGregor said he retired how many times in there, and we're literally still talking about him and Michael Chandler fighting.
Yeah.
So it's something that she needs to, what's the phrase that they say? Put some respect in your whatever. Put some respect on her name. I
There
forget.
you
I
go.
don't know the phrase I'm looking for, but like the Misha Tate, I mean, man, Jimmy, if you thought she was done, she let you know she's not, and that
I
that
thought
was
she was. I thought she
yeah,
was.
me
I didn't
too.
I didn't think she was done fighting. I thought she was done being a top contender, and
Mm-hmm.
she was in incredible shape. She had good cardio. I mean, everything. It was a championship women's 135-pound championship level fight that she put out there. That's what it looked like I was watching. It looked like I
Mm-hmm.
was watching a prime Misha Tate do her thing against a girl who Julia Vila, who I thought was going to win and had nothing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't 1 second of that fight where
Yeah.
Misha Tate was even worried about you know any fear of not winning that fight. It was like she was just going through a class. It looked like a black belt against a white belt, basically.
Yeah.
It looked like you against me if we decided just to do a full on
And
heavyweight, grappling match.
and Avila's
You
like
know,
no slouch either. Like if you've watched her fight, she's not somebody to. It's not like she's
No, I mean
somebody they
I
just
picked her to win. I think you
yeah,
did as well.
yeah.
I like we both know that she's got mad skills.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't come through that night, and maybe she had a terrible night, which made Misha look great. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to watch Misha's next fight now.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, okay, we'll see where it is, but now I'm all in. I'm all in.
Yeah,
If
there's
and it,
people that want to see her and Rousey again at UFC 300.
you know,
I don't care if Rousey fights, but she definitely should be. She was on 200. She should be on 300. Like what are they talking about doing her and Holly Holm again too? I saw a lot of matchups that I'm just like, if it's a marquee matchup, if it's something that, well, we know the rankings don't matter anymore anyway, so
Yeah,
just
that's what I'm
just
saying.
make
Like
a fight that sells.
if the UFC could figure out a way to get Ronda Rousey back to fight, then God bless the UFC and Ronda Rousey. Bring her in. I'll watch it. At this point,
Hmm.
like you said, everything else is thrown out the door. Would I expect Ronda Rousey to come in and beat anybody in the top 10? No, probably not. Probably not. I expect her probably to get smashed. But if she wants to, you know what I mean? Like, I just that's kind of where I feel like the sport is at, and we might as well just embrace anybody. Every once in but it's always been that way. We had the Lesnar thing for 200. We had, but I look forward to Misha's next fight. I thought she looked
Mhm.
great. Speaking of people who looked great, Sean Brady didn't even get Gaslam a chance to.
Yeah, that was
We didn't even get to see him at 170. Really, I mean, he got taken
yeah.
down, submitted before you
I
could even
I
really
will
get
say, I mean,
comfortable.
and I meant to put it on social media, but I was so burnt on Saturday. I was very I watched. I was not very active. Um, but I will say for like there was a lot of good scrambles that Gaslam did well, but Sean Brady's just the fluidity of his like seeing where Gaslam was going and where he was moving. Just that whole I mean the stuff that they were saying on commentary, I couldn't agree more with just how well he was moving. But Gaslam, the Gaslam he just got out he just got outclassed. Um, Brady's like his mindset was just step. You could see he's a step or two ahead of him every time, especially when he dragged him back and kicked that foot out from underneath him to
Mhm.
get to the back. That was just I mean the dude is good, man. I mean I was hoping for more from Gaslam. But he did some things that were impressive too. I know he lost, but it's like he made Brady work for that finish too. So it was a good fight. That was a fun fight.
Figueiredo looked incredible at 135. Looked like an instant contender there.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, awesome. Again, I mean, kind of like I know he had all those great fights with
Mm-hmm.
Moreno, but he ended up on the wrong side of it. Two and a
Mm-hmm.
half out of four times. You know what I mean? With the draw there, but so and a couple of the losses on the especially the last loss.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But
I
the thing about fights those fights with Figueiredo, I think that's what makes when you go through fights like that and you're still in your prime, and you heal from the damage and you're young enough to come back and fight more. That's where Figueiredo and Moreno are at, and I think those fights like those dudes made each other. Looking back at it, talking about Eddie Alvarez, Michael Chandler fight, like those guys are the battle gods that they are because of the wars they fought with each other, the ways that they locked horns, and I think that just showed on last Saturday with Figueiredo too. That's why it was so easy for me to pick him when we were doing our picks.
Yeah, I guess for me
Mm-hmm.
it's more like you forget how good these people are when they're not fighting. When he's not fighting Brandon Moreno, look what he does to a normal
Mm-hmm.
contender. You know, what I mean, Rob Font's not no joke.
Yeah.
So to see that domination, you're like, okay, that's like you lose a little sense of that when they're fighting when he's fighting somebody else that's on his level, as opposed to the guy who's just a click below, and you're like, that's the domination that's why he's fighting Moreno four times in
Mm-hmm.
a row.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody else in his class. Now, obviously, at 135, he's got a you know massive challenge and everybody in that division. But he made it, but a hell of an entrance. So looked great there. Jalen Turner looked outstanding
Mhm.
first round.
Oh,
Controversial finish, but finish aside, I mean,
yeah.
just crushed Bobby Green.
Yeah,
Um,
controversial because of the ref stoppage, but I there's a reason why you're not seeing it. Like usually people bash a ref for the whole like a few days after the event, but Dana White said in the post fight press conference apparently, and I forget the referee's name, but he saw the playback himself and was just like hard on himself. So like he recognized how bad the stoppage was, and I mean when someone at least admits it, you hope that they're going to do something to make sure it doesn't happen again. But Dana White, they brought that up to him, and he was kind of like, yeah, no, he's aware of it, and he's not happy about it.
I think
So
Kerry Hadley, I believe, was the referee. Um, Yeah, I mean, it was late. It was late. I don't get as dramatic as everybody, but then again, you might just say I'm just bleed. I don't think it was. I think it was late by a handful of punches, but I
mhm.
don't think I've seen people 15 seconds late. I didn't see it like that. I saw it was like 5 seconds late.
I
Which is
don't remember
five
where I
seconds
got
too
the
much.
the 10 unanswered punches. I always think of when Thompson fought Kimbo. And there was like 10 there was like a lot of punches unanswered, and I feel like I remember hearing on the broadcast if it's 10 unanswered punches and they're huddled up like that, that's usually when a stoppage should come. But I don't know when. Again, I'd have to take. You'd have to ask like Jay Petra, one of the guys that took the refereeing course over in Vegas last summer, which I hope to do this freaking summer. But yeah, it's something that one thing I will say, I feel like, I know Bobby Green's like a fan favorite, so I'm probably going to get shit for this, but I feel like he kind of brought it on himself too, because in the early exchanges before the finish happened, there's a little too much showmanship going on. His hands were down, so it's kind of like, it's cool to be confident, but overconfidence usually winds up like that. So he took it like a man. He did his post after, talk about winning and losing. So, um, hopefully he recognized that mistake too. But yeah, I thought it was worth mentioning that the referee was aware of it, because a lot of times they try to defend themselves like they're the master experts, without saying any names. We know who they are. That they don't make any names. That they don't make any, they don't take any responsibility for their actions. But and they go on to be commentators that nobody wants to hear. But you know, it is what it is.
The main event, Armin Saryukian
Oh boy,
demolished
man.
Benil Dariush. Kind of feel like my prediction of Dariush kind of reaching the pinnacle, and now perhaps
Hmm.
we're going to see a fall off. Seems to be semi-accurate, at least right now. Um, Serious contender in Saryukin at this point. I expect his next fight to even be obviously be bigger than this one, which basically puts you at a number one contender fight, and from that point, there's only the title after that. So, I mean, there's always a log jam at 155. It seems like
Hmm.
but it seems like it's a bit of a carousel in a sense that we're kind of it's the Oliveras. It just seems like it's kind of a giant round robin tournament. So,
Yeah,
perhaps a little bit of new blood in there would be nice because from
yeah.
what
I
I
mean,
saw this past.
one of the names he mentioned when he talked to the post event show on ESPN, when he spoke with Karen Bryant and then, was Justin. He said he wouldn't mind fighting Justin Gaethje if he can't get, like, anybody else ahead of him. And I think we all know Justin Gaethje only wants titles, either avenge other fights or his title match. Um, which I would prefer for him, because I'm a Justin Gaethje fan. But I don't know if I mean, I'm also curious to see how a fight with him and Sarukian goes. I don't know if Sarukian wants that smoke, because when he said it, if you watch the interview, it's on YouTube, ESPN MMA YouTube channel. He says it, but he doesn't say it like, you know, like the way other folks would call out a fight. He says it kind of very respectfully. Um, I don't know. I don't know, man. But you bring up a good point about the logjam, and we had that for a while with the women's strawweight division. And when you got a lot of good people in a certain weight class in one promotion, you're going to see that a lot.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the rankings right now because I feel like there's some fights for him to be had that isn't
Yeah, they
Justin
updated him
Gage.
yesterday, so that's a good.
Um,
Let's see. I'll bring him on screen.
okay, so the only people ahead of him are Poirier, Gagey, and Oliveira, and then Makshayev, the champ.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're gonna do with him. If Poirier, I guess, but you got to also throw Connor in there because you got Chandler and Connor who.
Because of money.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm still not sold that we're gonna see Connor and Chandler happen. It just seems like something that's so he has a loss to Gamrot, so he has a loss to Islam, so he's got a couple makeup fights there. I was thinking Fiziev. I think that would be a fun brawl of a fight, but I see that he's ranked, a couple slots under him, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
bringing it up so we could look at him. Yeah, Poirier. Is Connor even on here? Where's Connor? Is he
no,
in the
he's not
story?
listed because he hasn't fought
Oh
in
yeah, that's
it's
right.
too
Yeah.
long, but.
But he might be fighting Michael Chandler sometime. It's funny because Michael Chandler, he's doing all these interviews now to promote his I think it's called Hiatus, the tequila company he's like co-founding or sponsoring or whatever. All these celebrities and people are doing, getting into these booze companies. But as he's trying to push that, everybody keeps asking him, like, what's up with you and Connor? And he's just like, obviously it's not him that's holding up anything. So because he's ready to go, he says he's staying ready in training and everything. Um, but I don't know. I mean, if he wants to get another fight and just get another paycheck, maybe him and Sarukian, Chandler and Sarukian. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I mean, I think it'd be bad for.
I don't think I think Chandler would be a fool to not until Connor literally disappears or fights
Hmm.
somebody else.
Yeah,
I think he'd be a fool to pass up on that paycheck after he's already sat out for like a year. That's the
yeah,
thing. Like this whole thing, it'd be like he was hot. You know what I mean? He wasn't even winning fights, but he was
yeah.
hot. And now it's like I just feel
Just
like you let
yeah.
everything die down, and then you know as well as I do how this works. Like they finally announce the fight, and then one of them blows their knee out in training. Like you know what I mean? Like this is
especially if you got a ticket to the event. Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Yeah,
But speaking about tickets to events, so next week we look to have a good preview show. I will be attending Karate Combat, and I bit the bullet and am going to UFC 296 to join the folks up in the nosebleeds. But it'll
yeah.
obviously be a good time that I enjoy, and we'll get to talk about those fights next week. A couple stacked cards.
Hmm.
Um, and let's until then, fans can check out the show at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, Old Head Carb on Twitch. And that'll do it, folks. Thanks for listening, and we appreciate it every time.
See you next week.